everybody, this is Heather with Stampin' Up. Hang on, I just remembered I had to close my door. Hang on. Okay, that's much better. So let's see, I'm still waiting for this to show up on my computer. Bear with me. I want to make sure that I'm actually going the right direction today and not sideways like I have been. I've been playing with the camera and trying to figure out why it was doing that, and I'm not really sure. So we'll kind of play it by ear until I get this all set up. Let's see here. That I see in it and I don't appear to be responding to it, go ahead and say it again. That way we can, you can try to make sure that I get more response. On my side here, it says I'm live, but it also says that I'm waiting for a signal. It's not pulling it up where I can see the comments quite yet. Oh, this is nice. This whole time I think you have not had my head. Hang on. Maybe I'll just have to scoot back a little bit so that you can see my head here. Let's see what's going on in my week. My son finally moved over here from Seattle, so he's been here now for almost a week. He got here last Thursday, and that's a little bit of adjustment for all of us. He's 22, so he's been living on his own for quite a while, a few years, and he's used to not having mom on top of him, and I'm used to not worrying about him quite so much because I can't see everything he's doing. So we're navigating this new relationship, if you will. So far it's going well though. I'm glad to have him here. It's good to have my baby home, and my daughter, a men's homeless shelter, and then also a kids organization of some sort. And I made 115 handmade Christmas cards for them to put in the backpacks they were donating. And that was a little crazy trying to do a whole lot of them in a short period of time, but I'm so glad I did it. I had a lot of fun with it. That might be everything that's going on. I'm still without a car. My car went belly up in several different ways, so I'm still trying to figure that out. But in the meantime, now that my son's here, I can make him run my errands for me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started because we are past the top of the hour, and I want to get going on these couple of the cards that I've got. Are going to take a little bit more time tonight, and I want to make sure to have enough time to do them without, having to keep you overnight. So let me turn this around and we'll go from there. All right, let's see. Hi, Sally. I want to go over is some of the housekeeping stuff that's going on. Our Lots of Fun paper pumpkin kit. It is, it's already done as far as being able to order it, and it looks like mine is going to arrive sometime maybe this weekend or early next week. So obviously I won't be able to do an alternate ideas for you on this. And you can order this little add-on that's these little gift boxes that coordinate with the cards. So that's kind of fun too. You have until January 10th to order your subscription for this. So let's see, wanted to remind you that we've got our last chance products. That means that we're coming out with a new mini catalog. January 3rd will be its launch date. And you have until, January 4th will be its launch date. You have until January 3rd to order the retiring items from the current mini catalog. And now is a great time to do it because a lot of them are on sale. You can get them at a discount right now. Some are going to be kind of semi-retired and then brought back next holiday season again because they were so popular this season. But if you go onto my website, heathersides.com, you can just go to my website. Okay, so it looks like I'm caught up with you. So let's see if this seems to work a little better. Let me straighten things out a little. Okay, so this first card that I've got for you tonight is just kind of fun and cute, and I used the sentiment wishing you a little extra happiness just because you're you from our Pansy Patch stamp set, and I used the paper from our Pattern Party designer series paper. This is a set that comes with 48 sheets with different designs. I think it's 4 of each design. There's like 12 designs, you get 4 of each, and then the flip side is 12 more designs with that are black and white that you can play with. So I really like this paper pack, and these 2 papers that I used tonight are a couple of my favorite actually from this pack. So let's go ahead and we're going to get started. Let me show you how this card works. This one's a little bit of a fun fold, and it opens like this. See, so this little circle here kind of keeps the pieces closed a little bit because it's just slightly bigger. So it's a little tricky when you're opening and closing it, but there you have it. So let's get going on this card and I'll show you what to do. Oh, and I also in this used our layering circles dies, and I used one of the regular straight round one is what I was about to say. I don't know what else you would say. Plain round one. And then we have a ruffled one as well. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I've got half a sheet of Pool Party. I love this color. It's just such a soft bluish green, and it's very calming. I love it. It's 8.5 by 5.5, just like your standard card base. But instead of scoring it in the middle like I usually do, I scored it right here at 2 1/8 inches. And I'm going to show you why. On this I did a gatefold. Oh, and it's even kind of crooked, so we'll have to fix that. But I did a gatefold. And sometimes when you score your lines with your trimmer like I did, or with your scoreboard, it ends up a little crooked like what I just had. And if you've scored both sides, because this side's going to come in like this, if you have scored both sides, then they don't quite meet up in the middle, and it just looks a little bit wonky. So I found that what I do is I only score it on one side, and then I just do okay, let's try this in English, folks. I do what I just did, which was just to fold the other side up to match where the scored side is at. And then I crease it with my bone folder so we get a nice sharp edge. Easy peasy. Now, let's see, we've got our envelope here. So let's go ahead and get our envelope going so the glue has a chance to dry. Never a naked envelope, right guys? Now this is a fairly new glue bottle, which means it wants to spew out a whole lot of glue at once. So if you have a new glue bottle, you want to be kind of careful so you don't end up with so much glue that it either ends up pushing out all the edges, or it warps your paper. Because you know how sometimes when paper gets wet, it warps? Well, it'll do that same thing with too much glue. So you want to be a little bit careful when you're using the liquid glue. Get that on there. Okay, let's trim off the edges. How is everybody doing tonight? Is everybody having dinner right now? I haven't had dinner yet. I usually sneak something when I'm all done with my video while I'm doing all the behind the scenes stuff, like prepping it for YouTube, because I upload my videos to YouTube after every live I do. So my Wednesday evenings get pretty busy. So there's our envelope. Let's see here. Now the other pieces that I have for this card, I've got our inside, and it's just a piece that is 4 by 5 1/4, and then just a little strip of that striped paper that we're going to put at the bottom. In fact, let's go ahead and do that now. I always like to put a little something on the envelope or on the inside page just to decorate it a little bit so that it matches the front of my card. So let's see here. And for something like this, it is wide enough that I could use my Stamp and Seal or Seal Plus to adhere it, but I still like to use my liquid glue because as you can see, I just slid that over a little bit. It wasn't quite lined up, and while the glue is still wet, I can scooch it around a little bit to make sure that it's lined up properly. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my Seal Plus. This is my go-to adhesive for most things. We're going to put this on the inside of our card. Okay. Ooh, Carla said they had dinner in town. What'd you have tonight, Carla? Okay, there's the inside of our card. Now, here I have these are going to make the 3 flaps in the front that cross over each other. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere these little strips to the white strips. See, you can see the black and white print on the back side of this that I was telling you about. And all the black and white prints are different as well. 12 different designs of that, 4 sheets of each. Oh, that's a little bit crooked. That'll make me crazy. Ooh, barbecue. Oh, that sounds so good. My husband eats a pretty strict diet. He's a runner, and he just eats a very strict diet for that. And then my son, who just moved here, is vegan. So I'm still on my own if I want barbecue. Okay. Okay, got that first one. It just didn't want to go on straight. I have a funny story to tell you guys. My son, for whatever reason, is absolutely enamored with my cutting and embossing machine. He loves to crank it back and forth and run the plates through. He doesn't actually die cut anything. He just likes to run the plates through. And so we kind of have this ongoing joke where he's always trying to steal it, and he's always trying to walk out of my office with it thinking I won't notice it. So it's kind of funny. Last night I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Is that too much information? Got up to go to the bathroom and actually turned the light on in my office to see if he'd taken it. He told me today, though, that he felt like that would have been too easy to do, so he wouldn't have done it that way. He said the thrill of the challenge is trying to get it when I'm sitting right here. Okay, so now I'm going to stamp my message, my sentiment on here. And it's wishing you a little extra happiness just because you're you. And we're going to use the polished pink ink. Okay. Now, one thing I would recommend, this is one that I would actually normally stamp it first and then die cut it, just because then you can ensure that it's centered the way you want it. But you know, I like to do my die cutting before I go live so that I save some time. You can do it either way, but it might be a little less frustrating if you stamp it first. Just a tip. Okay, now I'm going to mount it onto my little circle here with the ruffled edge. And as you can see, when I put them together, the ruffly one is just so slightly bigger than the white one. You can make a little bit bigger mat if you wanted to. I mean, the circles, you saw them come in all different sizes, but I like this one where it just barely peeks out. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now we're going to go ahead and glue our little arms on. I don't know, strips, whatever you want to call them. Now what you want to do is lay them down first so you get an idea of where you want them, because really they're cut in such a way that you should be able to just stack them one right on top of the other. if you put them in the right spots. Now what I recommend doing is do the top, glue down the top one and then the bottom one. So that way, if you've given yourself a little too much space, you can center that middle one so that the gap is the same on both sides. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue these down. And what you wanna do is you wanna put your adhesive, I should do this where you can see, you just wanna put the adhesive on 1/2 of this. Because remember, if you put your adhesive on both sides, you're gonna seal your card shut. So let's do this one now. Oops, this one's a little higher than I want it. Okay, so you can see now I've got my two top and bottom. And this is what I was talking about where I said, put this one last because you can see there's just, see that ever so slight gap there between them. And if I butt this right up to the bottom one, then there'll be a gap there and it'll look kind of weird. So when I put it on, I can do it so that there's just a tiny little gap on both sides, but it lines up so it doesn't look so strange. Now this one, you're gonna go ahead and put the adhesive on the opposite side because this one's gonna open the opposite direction. There we go. Ta-da! Okay, now let's go ahead and put this guy on here, and I'm going to use dimensionals for this one just to give it a little bit of lift. I do like my dimensionals. I use them on practically everything. Okay. So now I'm going to pull these little bits off my backings. And I'm going to line this up. I want it to be right about here, I think. It can be wherever you want it. You don't want to get it too far over this way, or it will make it a little more difficult to open. But there we have it. There's our card with our matching envelope. Hang on, I'll grab it. Nice and quick and easy, right? Oh, your son raises beef and pork, so you guys get the real fresh stuff. Does he grass feed them? Oh my goodness, you guys, you know what I did? I did my card upside down. No, never mind. I'm so weird. Never mind. I was thinking because my crease was over here, but there's one on each side. What was I thinking? Okay, so all's well with the universe again. Okay, so, you know, the only time I've eaten grass-fed meat, Carla, is I went to New Zealand in 2007 and everything's grass-fed over there. And it was too rich for me. I didn't particularly care for it, but I am definitely a carnivore, that's for sure. I do like my beef, and when I was pregnant with my middle son, I couldn't get enough of it. And the bloodier, the better. Okay, so the next card I have for you, this one is actually utilizing a stamp set called Blessings of Home. Those of you who are demonstrators have seen this already. Hi, Elaine. It's nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. So this will be in the new mini catalog that comes out on January 4th, but I've had a little bit of a chance to play with it, and I want to show you what I came up with. And I'm also going to show you kind of a fun technique using the sponge daubers. We're going to use the dies from the Blessings of Home suite of products. And then we're also going to use just this little guy right here on this card as well, on the ornate frames set. So, ooh, fresh eggs and fresh chickens. That would be really, really lovely. The closest I have to anything fresh around here is my son's mouth. Okay, so for this one, I've got a few different pieces. This one's got quite a few, but it's actually quite simple to make this card. And I don't know if this is considered a fun fold or not, but what I've done is I created a little tab right here, this little blue piece, and what it does is it holds the card shut. This is just a background base piece right here. So the card itself is just this little piece here, and you just tuck it right under that little tab. So I'm going to show you guys how to make that. Let's start with our envelope. And this is using the paper from that same Heart and Home or Blessings of the Home suite. So what did I do with my glue? There we go. And I'm using the vanilla envelopes for this because I just liked it with the vanilla a lot. We don't use the vanilla a whole lot. I think we kind of forget about it sometimes. And I like to use it. It's just such a pretty warm color. Okay, get that on there. Okay, now, whoops, this guy needs to be slid up a little bit. See, so I used the liquid glue on my envelope flaps also. For the same reason I did that little strip on the inside of the other card with the liquid glue. It just allows me to scoot the paper around a little bit if I need to, if it's not lined up quite right. You know, another nice thing about using your designer series paper to decorate your envelopes, not only does it make it kind of fun for the person receiving it. I mean, if they see something decorated in the mailbox, they're going to know it's going to be something fun because, you know, who sends you bills all decorated up, right? But when you use your paper, then you're more inclined to buy more. You know, how many of us are paper hoarders? You know, raise your hand if you're a paper hoarder. I used to be. I would buy it, and then I never used it because I was waiting for that perfect project to use it on. And the problem is, then what happens is it retires, and if you're a demonstrator, you don't want to use retired products, right? And so it never gets used. The other thing is, paper does tend to come and go with trends. The patterns do. So your paper can go out of style, too. So I encourage you to go ahead and use it on your envelopes and things like that. If you run out, you can always buy more, but it also makes it easier to justify when a new pattern comes out that you want. You can justify buying it because you know you'll use it. So that's my little tip there. Now, first I have a card base. This is just 1/4 of a sheet of garden green cardstock. It's 5.5 by 4 1/4. I also have, let's see here. I have a layering piece here that is 5 by 4. I have a layering piece of our designer series paper that's just slightly smaller. It's 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So it's going to go on there like that. And then I have the card itself. This sheet is 4 3/4 by 6 inches. And of course I scored it in the middle at 3 inches. So let's go ahead and crease that really well. And let's get the inside in there. Whoops, I dropped it on the floor. I'm determined not to lose the insides of my cards this week. Remember last week and I kept losing all my little inside strips? I don't know what my deal was. They never did show up. So I must have just grabbed them and thrown them away when I threw away other scraps or something. Okay, so I'm just going to stick this right in the crease of my card. Line it up. And then cut off the extra. And this was just a little scrap I had, which is why it's so incredibly long. Okay. Now, on this one I chose to stamp my message on the inside because the front is that floral print and it takes up most of the card and I really didn't want to detract from that. So I've got this message that says, this sentiment that says, you are a real blessing to everyone around you. And this is in that same stamp set. So I'm going to get my Misty Moonlight ink. We're going to stamp it on there. Try to make sure it's straight. This is where I always go awry. There we go. You are a real blessing to everyone around you. Okay. clean off my stamp. For those of you who are new, I'm using the Stampin', the Simply Chamois is what it's called, and this is what I use to clean my stamps. It's amazing. It cleans them very, very well. And the old product that we used to use, the Stampin' Scrub, also works well, but it's kind of bristly, and so when you use it, water splatters everywhere, and sometimes that can get on your cards and stuff like that. So I really like these chamois. Okay, let's close this for now. Let's go ahead and start gluing some, actually let's wait to glue pieces together. Okay, I'm going to use my Stamparatus here, and what I have done is I've already mounted my stamp where I want it to be. The way I did that is I took my little card here, I put a tiny bit of seal on the back just to hold it in place, because this piece is going to get glued down anyway, so it doesn't matter. And I'm just lining it up. Little trick I learned is I use this corner where the Stampin' Up! Logo is, and if that's my habit every time, assuming that it works with the direction I want my paper or the size of my paper, if I do that every time, then I know exactly where to put my paper the next time if I'm making more than one card. Okay, let's see here. Okay, now I am using, where's my ink? I'm going to use the Early Espresso ink to stamp my image. Is that what I was going to do? I don't think so. I think that's a lie. I think I put away the glue that the ink that I was going to use. Yeah, this looks like I used black. Hang on. So I'm using the Stays On Jet Black ink, and the reason I'm using Stays On instead of Memento ink works very well with alcohol-based inks to go with it. For example, our Stampin' Blend markers are alcohol-based, so they work really well with the Memento ink so that it doesn't bleed and such when you use it. The Stays On ink, though, you want to use with your water-based things like your ink pads or your regular Stampin' Right markers, those kind of things. It does stain your stamp, so know that will happen, but it doesn't stain it in a way that it impacts future use of the stamp. So, for example, you can kind of see how mine has the black on it still from when I used it before. If I were to just lay it down on my card, none of that black would show up. It's not like there's still wet ink on it. So let's see here. I've got, what I prefer to do when I've got big stamps like this, or when I'm using my Stamparatus, is I take the ink to the stamp instead of laying the ink or laying the stamp in the ink. So I'm inking it up here. I love the smell of the Stays On ink. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. Anybody else like the smell of the Stays On ink? Okay, so now I'm just going to fold it over. You know, I'm going to take one of my little magnets here. Just because I want to hold, maybe I'll take two. Just because I want to hold this, make sure that it's held shut while I bring down my stamp. Just like this. And then I'm going to just kind of rub it, make sure it gets everywhere. Now, another nice thing about using your Stamparatus is when you pull up this door and you see, oh, it didn't it didn't stamp as evenly as I wanted to, there wasn't enough ink, whatever. All you have to do is pull it back, re-ink it, and do it again, and it's going to stamp in the exact same spot, which is hard to do when you're lining it up with your hands. So that is something that I do recommend. Now I'm going to try to clean off some of that extra ink really quick before I make a mess with it. See, you can see it's hardly coming off on my cleaner, but it still looks like there's a lot of wet ink on my stamp. It's just because it's stained the stamp. But you know what? As long as it doesn't impact your future colors that you're trying to stamp, it just shows that your stamps are used. And, you know, what better way of justifying buying more than knowing that you use the ones that you already have. Okay, so now I'm going to pull this up. Let's move this guy out of the way for now. Now here's what I wanted to show you as far as technique on this. I'm going to take my little sponge daubers. I have 3 because I'm working with 3 colors. And I'm going to use the garden green, the, where is it? Bumblebee. And, oh, there it is. And the Misty Moonlight. And what we're going to do here, you know, I learned this technique recently and I really like it. I had always been taught to use my sponge daubers straight down like that and then, you know, color with it. But the problem is it's kind of big, it's kind of bulky, and you don't have a lot of control in your picture. And something like this, you want a little more control. So what I learned is to do it right on that edge there, like that. Ink it up. I need some scratch here because I want to get some of the excess off first. So I'm just scratching it out like that to get some of that extra off. And then I'm going to start in the middle of my flowers. And I'm just coloring the centers because I want the centers to be darker. So just like this. Now the other nice thing is doing something like this, it gives such a soft look. It's almost a watercolory look, which means if you go out of the lines a little bit, it doesn't matter. It looks like it was supposed to be that way. And I'm all about things that when you make an error, it looks like it was supposed to be that way. So I'm going to color my flowers blue. And on these littler ones, I really went a lot quicker and didn't color them quite so specifically, I guess you could say. So it does go a little quicker. Okay, that's a little darker than I wanted, but that's okay. It'll give it a little dimension when they have different shades. Okay, I'm bumping into stuff and that's going to bug me. Okay, so let's get this guy. It's another one that's kind of a big flower. So we're getting the inside. And then I'm kind of taking it a lot lighter. I'm pressing a lot lighter with my dauber, which by the way, I wasn't pressing really hard before. But you can get various shades just based on how soft or hard you press. You can also go back in, go over it again and layer the color, make it darker. But it's really hard to make it lighter. So I always recommend starting it a little bit light, add to it if you need to. But you really can't go wrong here. And again, you know, I've kind of gone out of the lines a little bit here, but it looks okay because it just ends up making it have a little bit of a watercolor look to it. Let's see, make sure I get all the little flowers. Okay, let's see. There's some little ones up here. Little guy down here. Okay, I think I got all the flowers. So now I'm going to switch to my garden green. get those leaves. Get the excess off on my scratch paper here. And I'm doing the same thing. Those little areas that I want darker, which, just so you know, you guys, I have no artistic training whatsoever. So when it comes to where the light should be on things and how to shade them, I have no idea whatsoever what I'm doing. But I have found that Stampin' Up! Does a lot of that work for us. If you pay attention to the lines on an item, for example, these little lines right here in the middle of the leaf, that's where there would be some shading. So you can take that cue and make that area just a little bit darker. All right, guess I've got some leaves around the edge here. Kind of smoothing them out. Okay, now the last thing I wanted to do is just to add a little bit of color to the center of those flowers. So that's where I'm bringing in the bumblebee. And I didn't want a whole lot of color there, just a tad. So I'm getting off a lot of the excess. Remember, you can always add more if you decide you want more color. This guy should have a little yellow there. Oops, and there's one more there that needs some yellow. And you can see I haven't necessarily stayed inside the yellow on those. And again, that's okay. It gives kind of more of a watercolor look overall. So now we have the card decorated, and you can see that was actually pretty quick. Hi, Janice. It's nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. Yes, it's very much like adult crayoning, and it's very soothing. You know, my son, when he was in the third grade, I think, he had a teacher that when, you know, they want the kids, when they're taking a test, and they want the kids to be quiet, like if they finish their test and they're waiting for everybody else. And so she would have printed sheets of the mandalas that they could just sit there and color while they were waiting for their next test, or waiting for the test to finish. And it kept the kids calm and quiet while everybody else was finishing. And so I can totally understand why a teacher would use that as an idea. And I thought that was great. My father-in-law and his girlfriend are in Florida right now, Janice. Okay, let's see here. So now we're just going to glue these pieces together. Again, I'm using the Seal Plus, but you can use whatever works best for you. And this card is really pretty quick and easy to put together. So I'm just mounting it now onto that card base, just like that. And now I'm going to put the main card right on the base we've just created. I'm sorry, I keep pulling it toward me, and I'm sure I'm doing things off camera. Okay, so I just lined this up. I wanted my margins to match on the top, the bottom, and the left-hand side, like that. It's nice and straight. Then what I'm going to do is I've got this little guy. This little guy does not glue down super easily with most methods. You want to use your liquid glue. It's just because he's so fine and, you know, almost fragile. So what I do, I did put a couple little glue dots on, but I found it still came up in places. So I still think kind of the best way to do something like this is put a little glue on my silicone mat. And then I have a sponge dauber that I use just for this very task. I get a little bit of glue there, and I just dab it onto the back. Okay, now I have this tiny little tag that I cut out of the ornate tags die set, and I'm just going to line this up on here, pretty much center it, just like that. There we go. I'm going to set this out of the way. The nice thing, if you have never used a silicone mat with your glue, this is great. Its whole reason for living is to not stick to adhesive. So this glue will dry, and then all I have to do is rub it with my thumb and it comes right off the mat. So not so much the case with my dauber that I have glue all over it. But the mat makes it really easy to put glue on in that way without getting the glue everywhere. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use dimensionals. I'm just going to use the regular size dimensionals here. Only need a couple. And I'm actually going to put my dimensionals toward, make sure I'm doing this the right way. Yes, this is the top part of my label. I'm going to put the dimensionals closer to the top rather than centering them. And I'll show you why. Because now I'm going to line it up on my card. I want this to be the mechanism that holds the card shut. So I'm going to make sure it's centered here. And I want the dimensionals, I don't want the dimensionals to actually get on the little card itself, because then that'll seal my card shut. I just want to make sure the dimensionals are on this side of the card. So now it's held shut, but all you have to do is go like that to open it. So there we go, we have card number 2. Ta-da! With its little envelope. So now we have number 2. Exactly, Janice. If you don't put too much glue on, then it doesn't show. And even if you do a little bit too much, it does dry clear. But if you have a ton too much, then you have clumps and yucky stuff. So you just want to be careful not to use too much glue. Okay, well, you guys ready for card number 3? We are really cruising tonight. And card number 3 is kind of fun. This one is using one of my favorite products. It's not a Stampin' Up! Product, but I bought mine on Amazon. It's these little springs. So my little turtle who's flat on his back, look at that. Isn't that fun, you guys? I love that. I could just sit there and play with it all day. So anyway, this is another fun fold. It's going to open this way. You've got a message here, then it opens here, and you can handwrite your message inside. So let's get going on this one. I am using the Back on Your Feet stamp set. I think this is so cute. But my favorite is the little turtle on his back because I can use my little springy things. They're called Wobblers. If you go on Amazon and look up Wobblers, the first time I ordered them, I didn't pay attention to the size, and I ended up getting some that were about this big, which was fine on some bigger things, but to use it on the turtle, I had to trim them down. So you probably want to order the small ones, and I'll show them to you here. You get a pack of like 20 of them or something like that. They weren't very expensive, but this is a wobbler. And you can see the little spring inside. One side sticks to your element that you're wobbling, and then the other side sticks to the card itself so that it'll do that fun little trick for you. So let's get started. Let's see. And the paper that I'm using, the Designer Series paper, is In Good Taste. And I really like it. It's got a lot of textural patterns, like tile and wood, but different patterns of wood, different patterns of tile. Some that's like a spackle sort of look. But there's a ton you can do with it, and it's great for making masculine cards. Not to say that you can only make masculine cards with it, but it is good for that. So let's start by doing our envelope. Okay, just get a little bit on there. Okay. Okay. Let's cut off the extra. Where did my scissors go? There we go. Huh, I put them away. Who would have expected that? So let's see, trim this guy off. Can you guys believe Christmas is next week? I still have, I'm not doing a whole lot for Christmas this year, but I still have Christmas shopping to do. I'm kind of embarrassed. Usually I'm one of those people that I get it cranked out early, get the presents all wrapped and done, and just so that then I don't have to deal with it the rest of the season. Okay, so we have our envelope. Now I've already stamped the turtle because, why did I already stamp the turtle? Oh, because I was trying to create this piece right here, and I didn't like that they were crooked. So I thought, well, instead of wasting it, this will be my one that I cut out. So I've got my turtle there. I've got two in case I really screw one up. Then I also have, this is my card base. And again, what I did is, this piece is 8.5 by, wait a minute. Oh, I know what I did. Okay, so I started out with a half of a sheet that was 4.25 by 11. But then what I did is I cut off this section. Let me show you. This section that was right here. This is 2.5 inches. And I just cut that piece off. We're going to use that piece on the inside flap. So I'm setting that aside. This piece is also, yeah, oh yeah, this is going to go on the front. Where's that little guy? I have a piece here that what I did on this piece is I should get out my ruler so I can tell you the exact dimensions, you guys. Okay, maybe if I did this in order. So first I have this piece. Okay, first I had this piece. I showed you that it's like a standard card, but I cut off the piece that was 2.5 inches. Let's go ahead and, okay, so I cut that piece off. Then I have 2 layering pieces that fit on that. Then I had a piece here that is 4 by 5.25. Now it would fit as a normal layering piece on the card, but I wanted it to fit in these little pieces right here, like this. So what I did is I cut off 2.25 inches here. And the reason I cut it so that I don't have a full mat around this piece is because I wanted it to tuck under the front flap just a little bit. So let's go ahead and adhere this down. So this piece is 2.25 by 4. And I'm just gonna, actually I'm ahead of myself. I have this layering piece. It is 4 by 5 1/4. This is for the inside of the card. And we're just going to put it right here. I'm kind of out of sorts on my measurements on this one. Okay, line it up. Now this piece that we cut off of this one is going to go right here over the white, and I didn't leave an edge around it or anything like that. I wanted it to cover it up completely, so there's no white edge there. So that's how the inside of the card looks. Let me check if I did anything on the inside. I did not. Okay, so then we've got, oh, but you know what I forgot to do? Okay, let me show you. We have this piece here that is 5 1/2 by 2 3/4, and I scored it at 1/2 inch. So we have this little lip here. Now I'm going to have to lift up the inside of my card. There we go. And I'm just going to kind of center this with the middle of this piece right here. And see, it's flipped under the white. And I should put a little more adhesive on there so that seals down properly. Okay, so there we go. So it created that little flap that's actually going to be the front of our card. But I want to work on this flap for just a minute. So first thing we're going to do is stamp on this one. And all we're stamping on that one is the message. I am using my Early Espresso ink for this, which is right here. I like the Early Espresso because it's nice and dark like black, but it's not quite so in your face as black. And the message that we're going to put in there is, hope you're back on your feet soon. We'll line it up here. And I just kind of did it to the right a little bit. Again, put it wherever you like. It's going to be completely covered up when the card's closed, so it doesn't matter. Now we're going to go ahead and close this ink pad for now. And we're going to glue these pieces together. And this one has a little bit of a lip because I have a new blade on my trimmer. So I'm just using my bone folder to flatten out that little lip. And then another nice thing about the Seal Plus is if you put too much on and it goes over the edge like mine did, all you have to do is fold it back with your finger. I'm going to stick this on here. Okay, and this we're going to do very similar to the first card that we made tonight with those flaps, and we're only going to put the adhesive on one end of it. So we're going to go like this. And you can line it up and see where your other flap is going to cover it up so that you can make sure that it's lined up right. There we go for that part. Now, oops, you know what I forgot to do? Golly, I'm out of control, you guys. Hey, Robin. Oh, tonight is the finale of Survivor. I have it recording. I record everything and then watch it on the DVR so that I can fast forward through the commercials. Okay, this piece goes on here. And then we stick this guy on here. There we go. And it's all lined up. Now we're ready to tackle the front. So I have my little turtle guy. I think we'll go ahead and do that last just because it's on the very, very front and it's the most detail. So again, I'm going to take my early espresso ink and I'm going to stamp a couple of turtles on here. And I want to try to make sure that they are about the same, they line up this way so that one's not significantly higher than the other, but if they're not perfectly exact, that's okay. Okay, clean off my stamp here. Sorry I'm shaking the camera, you guys, I just realized it was doing that. Okay, of course I should have known because it does that every time I do that. Now we're going to go ahead and stick this onto our flap on the front. There, now we're ready to make our final little guy turtle. So what I've done here with him is I have Old Olive ink. I do have my early espresso. I have the soft suede, and I have a little bit of mossy meadow. And you know, I don't think I used my early espresso on this part, so I'm going to move it out of my way. I'm going to go ahead and open all these ink pads, which is dangerous for me to do, but I'm going to take a walk on the wild side tonight. Thank you. Talina says this is an adorable card. Thank you, Talina. I love that little turtle guy. Okay, now I'm going to take one of my blender pens. If you have never used the blender pens before, they can be a little bit intimidating because people aren't quite sure what to do with them. I'm going to sit down for this part. Okay, so what you do is I have a couple of ink blocks here. Thought I did one for each color, but maybe I did not. Okay, so first I'm going to use my Old Olive, and I'm just taking the block and I'm stamping it, not stamping it, but I'm inking up the block just like I would if I had a stamp. I'm going to do that with the soft suede as well. And I'm going to start with my lighter green, the Old Olive. And I'm going to color the shading part of the turtle, the parts that I want a little bit darker. And again, I'm just following Stampin' Up's lead where they put little shading lines as my hint that that's where I would want it to be darker. Let's see here. Now another thing I've seen people do with this technique, instead of stamping the block onto their ink pad, they'll just put like a drop of ink refill on there. It does give you a lot bolder color when you do that. So especially if you're doing something really bright, that's what you want to do. But with this, I kind of liked the little more muted look. So now I'm going to start filling in the rest of him. And slowly but surely, the green is going to start wearing off of my pen. When it gets to a point that I feel like it's worn off too much, or if I reach a breaking point like, okay, I've just finished his head, I'm ready to do another part, then I'll put a little more ink on. But I don't want that super dark, so I'm going to scribble a little bit on my scratch paper over here. I don't know if you can see me doing that. But I just scribbled a little bit to take some of that extra ink off. I want him a little darker. And I'm just going to keep doing this to get him all colored in. And I really like the look of coloring him in on the designer series paper versus the stark white. It just kind of gives a neat look to it, I think. Oh, okay, so Janice says she's not able to hear me as well. You're right, I did move away from the camera. Can you hear me better now? I'll try to sit up a little taller. If I need to stand up, I will. Okay, now the other thing that I did is I gave a little bit of the lighter green, the old olive, right in his little, I don't know what you want to call it, but on his shell, his little squares. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stand back up. Now, I am done with the old olive, so I'm going to go ahead, close that ink pad, to save myself a lot of heartache, and then I want to show you, I want to clean off my pen. You can see it's got the old olive ink on it. I don't want that color anymore, which really, if I was going to use the Mossy Meadow next, it really wouldn't matter because it's just a darker green. But all you have to do is you just scribble with your pen until the ink all comes off. See, and now it's coloring clearly. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. Now you can see I started scribbling and it got some of the green there, and then now it's clear and I can move on to my next color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off my block. All you have to do to clean off the block is rub it on your Simply Chamois. And now it's clean. I am going to go ahead though, and I'm going to do some of his, the brown that I want in his shell right now. So I'm going to start with the darker, while it's still kind of fresh ink. And I'm just going over these lines on his belly. And now I'm filling in. And as I fill in, I'm kind of blending it so that dark doesn't look so much like drastic lines. And as it dries, you can see how dark it looks on here. But as it dries, it really soaks into the paper and the colors blend a lot better, and they get a little bit lighter because you can definitely see a difference between these two. So let's see. Now let's see. I want to do these little stripes here. Okay, and I'm just going to scribble this off like I was explaining with the other one. See how it's just, you just scribble till it's clear. And when you buy these, you pay like $10 and you get 3 pens. Each one has 2 tips. The tips are exactly the same. So essentially you're getting 6 of these pens for like 10 bucks. They last a really, really long time. Okay, so now let's get a little bit of that mossy meadow on here. And I'm going to do the shaded areas on the squares on his shell. And again, you guys, I'm not any kind of artist. I am just following what Stampin' Up! Has already provided for me. No sense in recreating the wheel. Now on my other one, I wanted a little bit of a brown hue to those little squares. So I just very lightly went over them just like this. That might have been a little more brown than I wanted, but that's okay. And now I'm just going to fill in the rest of that shell with the darker green. There. Now, like I said, this will blend a little bit better as it soaks into the paper, but I'm happy with how that looks right now. Clean off my pen, because there's nothing worse than thinking, oh, I'll just clean it next time ahead of time, and you forget that you need to, and then you like try to use a pink or another light color, and you shouldn't have, because you didn't clean it. Okay, so clean off my blocks. Oh, I did forget one thing. Let's see here. Find my pen again. Where did my mossy meadow? Oh, it's still here. I'm just going to take a little right off of you can take a little right off the ink pad too. I'm just scribbling some of that extra off, because when you take it right off the ink pad, you get it nice and dark. I just want to shade the ground a little bit here. There, just like that. I'm going to scribble off the extra. And I should point out, when I'm scribbling like this, I'm kind of using the side of my marker. I'm not doing it straight up and down, because that does help protect the tip a little bit. Okay, now we're going to fussy cut this guy. I wish we had a die cut for him or a punch, but we don't. But he's really not too bad. The trick to fussy cutting is make sure that you're moving your paper, not your scissors. I mean, of course you're moving your scissors up and down to open and close them, but you're not changing the angle of where you're cutting by moving the scissors. You are moving the paper. Okay. Now when you fussy cut, you can cut right up to the edge of the stamped image. I prefer not to, just because I think it makes it a little easier to hide errors and you don't accidentally clip something off. So I prefer to leave just a little bit of edge around whatever I'm cutting out. Come on, little guy. I love his little eyebrows. Okay, and we're on the home stretch. Oops. You are absolutely welcome to case it, Janice. Okay, so now we've cut out our little turtle guy. And I'm going to show you how to put the wobblers on. So what I do is this side that's open, I don't know if it really matters, but I put this one up against my stamped image. So peel off the backing, and this is a great job for, you take your pick tool, because it can be a little tricky to get that backing off. And I'm just going to stick it right, move that out of the way, right in the middle of his back. Then I'm going to peel it off of here, the backing off of this side. Okay, and now I'm just going to stick it where I want it, and I wanted it to be kind of in the middle of these two guys that are here. And look at him. Oh, he's kind of crooked. Well, he may just be stuck that way. Oh no, we can fix him. Oh, now he's out of control. Okay, come on, little guy. Well, why does he keep doing that? I don't like it that he does that. Move out of the way, envelope. Okay. They're normally not fussy like this, so I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with my little wobbler tonight. But there, see, he's still kind of crooked. And that's going to bother me. I may just have to suck it up and live with it. Okay. Okay, Heather. Deal with it. You can handle this. You're a grown-up. Okay, I can't handle it. I can't handle it. Okay, so there we go. We've got the front flap, the inside flap, and then the inside where you can write a message with our coordinating envelope. What do you guys think of that one? Yeah, Talina, I think that's a crafter's curse that we just talk to the stuff. Yeah, the fact that he's crooked makes him unique. Okay, so, these are the cards we made tonight. Let me show you guys just kind of a recap of what we did. Okay, we've got this guy and this guy. And then finally, we have our turtle guy. Make sure to get everybody on there. So what do you guys think? Fun? Oh, and thank you guys. Hi, Sharon. I didn't see you sneak in. Nice to see you tonight. Okay, so those are the 3 cards that I made for you. Like I said, the one that I used, the heart and home, heart. Oh, I already put it away. It is Blessings of Home. This set will be available January 4th, but if you join my team in December, you can pre-order it as part of your starter kit. You pay $99, you get $125 worth of products of your choice. Plus you get a free paper pumpkin kit, plus you get free shipping. So you're paying $99 plus tax, and you're getting about $150 value. So it's really a great deal. If you have questions about that and would like to join my team, I'd love to answer any questions you have, or you can go directly to my website, heathersides.stampinup.net, and click on the link that says join, I think, and find out more information that way as well. And you can just sign up right there online. If you're looking to purchase any of these items to make these cards or any other items that you need, like I said, I'd love to earn your business. You just go to my website, heathersides.stampinup.net. If your order is under $150, it would really help me out if you would use this host code. If your order is over $150, please don't use the code because you're going to earn some free stuff from Stampin' Up! I want to make sure that you get it. So we've got that. Now, a couple other things that you can do to help me that don't cost you a dime is if you enjoyed this video, please like it, make comments, share it with others. You never know who in your feed might be interested in seeing it. If you're watching this later on YouTube or even here on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. That also helps get my video out there to more people and helps me to grow my business. So I am looking forward to seeing you guys all next week. By the way, next week, I know it's cutting it close to Christmas, but I figured that next Wednesday is far enough out that we could still spend a little time stamping together. So I'd love to see you then. In the meantime, have a great week, and I'll see you guys later.